Have you ever had the haunting feeling that life is not as random as it appears? That behind the noise of daily struggles, there's a deeper pattern guiding everything, one that you can sense, but never quite put into words? Throughout history, a handful of seekers, philosophers, and mystics insisted this hidden order exists, and that it's not just spiritual poetry. It's law. Ancient wisdom known as the Kybalion laid out 7 precise principles, a kind of manual for how reality works, and how energy responds to the human mind. These teachings don't ask you to blindly believe. They invite you to experiment, to test whether your thoughts and emotions are shaping your world more directly than you ever realized. The first principle is so fundamental that it feels almost unsettling when you truly grasp it. It says that everything begins with mind, not just your personal mind, but a vast, infinite consciousness that the ancients simply called the All. Everything you see, touch, and experience, every star in the sky, every cell in your body was once an idea, an impression, a thought. Just pause on that for a moment. Think about a city skyline, those towering buildings, the roads, the lights, before any of that was steel or glass. It lived inside someone's imagination. The blueprint always begins in thought. On the largest scale, the universe itself is the manifestation of thought. This is not abstract philosophy. It's the recognition that your inner world is not disconnected from your outer world. When your mind is filled with chaos, self-doubt, and fear, reality has a way of mirroring that energy back to you. But when you begin to focus your thoughts, when you align them with clarity, purpose, and vision, reality responds in ways that can feel almost magical. It's not magic though, it's law. The Kybalion insists this principle is as real as gravity, whether or not you're aware of it. And here's the powerful implication. If reality is mental at its core, then learning to shape your mind is learning to shape existence itself. The second principle reveals why patterns seem to repeat across every level of life, from the vastness of galaxies to the intricacies of your own emotions. It is the law of correspondence, summed up in the phrase, as above, so below, as below, so above. Everything is connected by patterns that echo through different scales of existence. Look at the branching of a tree, then look at the branching of rivers on a map, then look at the neural pathways in your brain. The same design shows up again and again, whispering that the universe speaks in repeating rhythms. The cycles of the moon affect the tides of the ocean, but they also influence the cycles of the human body. The storms in your personal life often reflect the storms in your inner life. The world outside you corresponds to the world within you. When you truly understand this law, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of random circumstances. Instead, you begin to see life as a mirror. If chaos is repeating in your external world, you ask, where is the chaos within me? If harmony is blossoming around you, you recognize that your inner state has found alignment. This is why the sages of the past obsessed over self-knowledge, because by working on the smallest patterns within yourself, you begin to shift the larger patterns around you. Imagine if the anxiety you carry inside is like static that ripples outward, attracting more turbulence in your relationships, your work, and your health. But when you replace that anxiety with inner calm, with steady focus, the outer world begins to respond in kind. The third principle builds on the first two and makes them come alive in motion. It is the law of vibration, and it declares that nothing rests. Everything, from the densest rock to the most fleeting thought, is in constant movement, pulsing with energy at different frequencies. Science agrees with this, of course. Atoms are never still. Every particle is in motion. But what the Kybalion adds is that your emotions, your thoughts, and your very consciousness also vibrate. And those vibrations influence what you attract and what you repel. Think about the difference between walking into a room where people are tense, angry, and bitter, versus walking into a room where people are joyful, warm, and laughing. The vibration hits you instantly. You don't need words to feel it. On a personal level, your vibration is like your calling card to the universe. If you're vibrating in fear, frustration, or scarcity, you tend to magnetize experiences that echo that same frequency. If you raise your vibration into gratitude, confidence, and clarity, you draw in people and events that resonate with those states. This doesn't mean you can just paste a smile on your face and pretend to be happy when you're not. Vibration is not about faking it, it's about genuinely transforming your inner energy. That might mean healing old wounds, forgiving yourself and others, or training your mind to shift focus toward possibilities rather than limitations. The key is consistency. Your dominant vibration, the emotional music you play most often, sets the tone for your reality. So think about what these first 3 principles reveal when taken together. Everything begins with thought. The patterns within you echo into the patterns around you. And every thought and emotion carries a vibration that shapes the experiences you attract. Suddenly, life stops being random. You realize that you are participating in the creation of your reality every single day, whether consciously or unconsciously. Here's the deeper invitation. Imagine if you stopped letting your mind wander aimlessly, stopped allowing old fears and stale beliefs to run the show. Imagine if you took ownership of your mental state, deliberately elevated your vibration, and noticed how the universe begins to shift in response. The Kybalion says you don't need to wait decades for transformation. The moment you change the mental and vibrational seeds you plant, the external world will begin rearranging itself, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, but always in alignment with your inner frequency. And so, as you absorb these principles, don't just hear them as lofty ideas, feel them, test them. Watch how your thoughts ripple into the atmosphere around you. Because the truth is, you're already using these laws every single day. The only question is whether you'll use them unconsciously and let life push you around, or consciously and step into the role of creator. If the first 3 principles revealed that mind creates reality, that patterns repeat across every level, and that vibration determines the quality of your experiences, the next laws take you deeper into the paradoxes of existence itself. They don't just explain how the universe moves. They show you how to find balance in the midst of it all. Think for a moment about the extremes you encounter in daily life. Light and darkness, hot and cold, joy and sorrow. At first glance, they look like opposites, locked in eternal conflict. But the ancient wisdom of the Kybalion insists that these opposites are not separate forces. They are 2 ends of the same spectrum. This is the principle of polarity. Everything has poles. Everything exists along a sliding scale. Hot and cold are not different things. They are varying degrees of temperature. Light and darkness are varying degrees of illumination. Love and hate are varying degrees of emotion. Once you understand this, you begin to see that transformation is not about leaping into some new reality out of nowhere. It's about shifting along a spectrum. A person drowning in despair is not cut off from joy forever. They are simply positioned at one end of the emotional scale. With practice, with intention, they can shift their vibration toward the other end. And here's the power. The moment you realize opposites are the same thing expressed in different degrees, you no longer feel powerless. You realize that you can slide the dial. You can transform fear into courage, confusion into clarity, anger into compassion. Polarity gives you the handle. Now think about rhythm. The ancients described it as the pendulum swing of the universe, the constant back and forth motion that governs everything. Day turns into night, tides rise and fall, seasons shift endlessly, breath flows in and out. Life is rhythm. Nothing escapes this law. When you're on top of the world, eventually the swing will carry you downward. When you're in the depths, eventually the swing will carry you upward. The trick is not to resist it, but to understand it. Have you noticed how emotional highs are often followed by lows? How victories are sometimes followed by setbacks? This is rhythm at work. The Kybalion says the wise person doesn't try to stop the pendulum, because that's impossible, but instead learns how to rise above its swing. Imagine you're on a boat in rough water. The waves rise and fall. You can't control the ocean, but you can learn to steady yourself, to ride the rhythm instead of being thrown by it. Rhythm teaches you resilience. It reminds you that nothing stays the same, nothing lasts forever, and so neither despair nor triumph should control you. Both are passing. What matters is your ability to find balance as the pendulum swings. But the universe is not only rhythm, it is also cause and effect. Every action has a reaction. Every event is linked to a chain of causes stretching back into the unseen. We live in a world that sometimes feels random. But according to this principle, nothing truly happens by chance. What we call luck is simply the intersection of causes we don't yet understand. What we call coincidence is just the meeting of patterns that were set in motion long before we notice them. This is where responsibility comes in. If you believe life is pure chaos, then you live as a victim. But when you grasp cause and effect, you begin to realize that your choices ripple outward endlessly. The words you speak plant seeds. The habits you repeat carve pathways in both your brain and your future. The energy you send out is the energy you eventually meet again. Think of it like echoing sound in a canyon. Whatever you shout, it comes back to you. If you send out bitterness, bitterness finds its way back. If you send out generosity, generosity finds its way back. And here's the mini hook. What if every single thought you've had today, every emotion you've indulged in, every action you've taken is already shaping events that you'll meet weeks or months from now? Suddenly, nothing is small. Suddenly, even your inner dialogue matters. Cause and effect turns every moment into a seed of destiny. Now step back and weave these principles together. Polarity shows you that opposites are not enemies. They're extensions of each other. Rhythm shows you that life will always swing between extremes, but that you can learn to rise above the storm. Cause and effect reminds you that nothing is random, that the universe is not against you, but responding precisely to what you put out. Imagine how differently you would approach your challenges if you truly lived by these laws. Instead of collapsing into despair when life gets dark, you'd remember polarity. You're just standing on one end of the spectrum, and you can move toward the other. Instead of panicking when success is followed by setbacks, you'd remember rhythm. Every high has a low, every low has a high, and your job is to stay steady through the motion. Instead of blaming luck or fate for your struggles, you'd remember cause and effect. Your thoughts and actions are not meaningless. They are the architecture of your future. The more you let these ideas sink in, the more you notice them everywhere. You see polarity in the changing moods of the people around you. You see rhythm in the endless cycles of your own energy and motivation. You see cause and effect in the way your smallest decisions ripple into consequences days, months, or even years later. The world becomes less mysterious and more like a vast, intricate system that you're learning to navigate. Here's the shift. You stop feeling like a powerless passenger in your own life. You begin to feel like a navigator, someone who can't control the ocean, but who can adjust their sails, anticipate the winds, and harness the currents. And that sense of agency, that sense of conscious participation in the dance of reality, changes everything. So now, with 6 principles revealed, you can already sense the framework of the universe. Mind creates all. Patterns repeat across every level. Vibration shapes your reality. Opposites are extensions of each other. Rhythm governs the swing of life. Cause and effect keeps everything in order. But there is still one more law, the 7th principle, that ties all the others together and adds a dimension of creation so profound that it often gets misunderstood or ignored. That final law is what we'll explore next. And once you hear it, the whole puzzle of the Kybalion will feel complete. The final principle of the Kybalion is often the most misunderstood, yet it carries within it the secret of creation itself. The ancients called it the principle of gender, not in the limited sense of male or female identity, but in the recognition that everything in existence carries both a masculine and feminine quality of energy. These energies are not about physical bodies. They are about dynamics. The masculine is the force of projection, direction, and action. The feminine is the force of receptivity, intuition, and nurturing. Together, they form the complete cycle of creation. Think about how every idea begins. First, there is the spark, the masculine impulse that initiates, that pushes outward. Then, there is the field of reception, the feminine ground that nurtures, gestates, and brings that idea into form. Without the masculine, nothing begins. Without the feminine, nothing is sustained. Every invention, every piece of music, every work of art, every moment of personal transformation has required both. You hold the seed and you also hold the soil. Both energies live inside you. And when they are harmonized, you become a channel for creation. This principle can be seen everywhere. The earth receives the energy of the sun and brings forth life. The mind receives an idea and nurtures it into reality. In relationships, friendships, business partnerships, you see the dance of giving and receiving. Action and rest, impulse and response. The imbalance of these energies leads to frustration. Too much masculine energy without receptivity creates force without depth, action without wisdom. Too much feminine energy without direction creates potential without movement, dreams that never take form. But when they meet in balance, creation flows effortlessly. And here's the key. The Kybalion isn't just describing the outside world. It's speaking to the universe inside you. Your masculine side is your ability to focus, to take bold steps, to declare your intentions. Your feminine side is your ability to trust, to imagine, to allow the invisible to gestate until the right moment for action arrives. When you neglect one, you limp through life with half your power. When you honor both, you become whole. Now step back and look at all 7 principles together. First, mentalism. You are living in a universe that is fundamentally mental, where thought is the seed of all creation. Second, correspondence. Patterns echo from the vast cosmos to the smallest cell, and your inner world mirrors your outer world. Third, vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, and your frequency determines the experiences you draw in. Fourth, polarity. Every apparent opposite is simply 2 ends of the same spectrum, and transformation is shifting along that scale. Fifth, rhythm. The pendulum swing governs all things, and wisdom lies in mastering your balance as the tides of life rise and fall. Sixth, cause and effect. Nothing happens by chance. Every choice and every thought sends ripples into the future. And seventh, gender. The masculine and feminine forces are always present, and true creation comes from their union. When you take them together, you no longer see life as random or hostile. You begin to see it as a vast, intelligent design, a living tapestry in which your mind, your choices, and your energy are active threads. You are not a spectator. You are a participant. You are not at the mercy of fate. You are shaping it with every thought you allow, every word you speak, every action you take. Imagine walking into your day tomorrow with these laws alive in your awareness. You wake up and remember, everything begins in mind. So you choose your thoughts carefully. You remind yourself that what happens outside is reflecting what lives inside. So you check in with your inner state before blaming circumstances. You notice your vibration, the emotional frequency you're carrying, and you lift it toward gratitude or clarity. When challenges arise, you remember polarity. The difficulty you feel is simply one end of a spectrum, and you have the ability to shift toward the other. When life feels like it's swinging wildly, you remember rhythm, and you steady yourself instead of being thrown by the waves. When you're tempted to believe in luck or random chance, you remember cause and effect, and you recognize that what you plant today, you will meet tomorrow. And finally, when you're bringing something new into being, you remember gender. You call on the masculine to initiate, the feminine to receive, and you allow them to work together in harmony. These are not just mystical ideas. They are practices. They are tools. And the more you live them, the more you feel reality bend in response. That is why seekers throughout history clung to these laws, not because they wanted abstract philosophy, but because they discovered that life actually shifts when you live in alignment with them. The question now is, how will you use them? Will you let your mind wander aimlessly, vibrating in fear or doubt, carried helplessly by the pendulum of rhythm, blaming luck for every setback? Or will you wake up to the truth that you have been shaping reality all along and begin to shape it consciously? Will you experiment with shifting polarity, with raising vibration, with balancing masculine and feminine within yourself? Because the Kybalion is not meant to stay on a dusty shelf. It is meant to be lived. And here is the final thought to carry with you. Every time you catch yourself thinking you're powerless, remember the first principle: all is mind. You are not small. You are not separate from the vast intelligence of the universe. You are an expression of it, a spark of the same consciousness that dreamed galaxies into being. When you truly know this, not just in your head but in your bones, you stop asking whether you can control energy and reality. You begin to realize that you already are. Every breath, every choice, every moment is an act of creation. So as you step away from this exploration of the 7 laws, pause and look around you. Look at your relationships, your work, your health, your dreams. Ask yourself, what have I been unconsciously creating? And more importantly, what will I choose to create now? Because the blueprint is in your hands. The universe is not outside of you. It is inside you, waiting for your direction. And the moment you claim that truth, the moment you begin to live these principles with awareness, you discover that reality is not something that happens to you. Reality is something you are shaping, right here, right now.